It's kind of settling in. We are about to jump out of a perfectly working helicopter. For more Hawaii videos, make sure you're subscribed and click that notification bell so you're alerted every time we post a new video. Helicopters, scuba diving. Did you know that in Hawaii, you can jump out of a helicopter and then go scuba diving after? You can. In this video, I take you with me on what is arguably the coolest, best activity, hands down, I have ever done on the island of Oahu. And if you've been following this channel for a bit, you know that we've done a lot of activities here. In fact, I only started editing these kind of videos maybe about a year or two ago, and before that, I have tons of other activities that I've done and posted reviews on the yestohawaii.com website. In this video, I'm gonna break it down into 5 easy to follow steps. If you're watching this video, this is something that you've heard about or might be curious to do, but you wanna know how it works. If so, this is the video for you. In this video, I'm gonna show you guys how to get there, what to expect, options, what to pack, and lastly, a review. As always, I've left timestamps in the description box below, so feel free to skip around the video to the parts that you came here for. To book this activity, I'll leave a link in the description box below on how you can book this too. So first off, how do you get there? TRIDENT Adventures is located here on the island of Oahu, in Honolulu at the Aloha Tower Marketplace. The dive shop is located just behind the old spaghetti factory. Now, if you're staying in Waikiki, from Waikiki to the dive shop, it's about 4 miles or about 7 kilometers. I'd say it normally take about 20 minutes to get there. However, keep in mind, traffic can be unpredictable, especially if there's any road closures in Waikiki due to parades or events. It's always best to give yourself ample time to get from your hotel or Airbnb to the actual dive shop. If you choose to drive yourselves, the parking lot is located right across from the old spaghetti factory. Just make sure that you do bring in your ticket to the dive shop because they validate, making parking only about $10. Another really good option is that you can take a taxi from Waikiki or Uber or Lyft. And now for the second part, what you're here for, what to expect. TRIDENT Adventures is owned and operated by 2 ex-Navy SEALs. I was lucky enough to jump with one of the founders, Steve. And if I'm about to jump out of a perfectly working doors-off helicopter into the ocean below me and go scuba diving after, I'm pretty grateful that it was with an ex-Navy SEAL. Throughout the tour, I learned that he actually organized a lot of the helicopter operations in his division, and he also helped organize a lot of the helicopter jumps for Hawaii Five-0. So, in summary, I was in the right hands. As for the helicopter jump, you can expect it to have 3 parts. The first part is the check-in process, the second is the actual helicopter jump itself, and the third is going to be the scuba dive. Now, let me break it down. For the check-in process, it was actually really easy. I was on the 12 o'clock dive, so I had to check in 2 hours prior at 10 o'clock. Once I got there, I filled out any waivers I needed to fill out. I also was fitted for gear, and I got a general rundown of what was gonna happen. The safety briefing we had was thorough. It was actually led by one of the founders, Steve, and he went into detail every single part about the jump, about the dive, everything that we could expect, and he gave way more detail than we probably needed, and I completely appreciate that. If you've been following this channel for a while, you know I absolutely love details. I love knowing what's going on. I love understanding every single part about what I'm about to do, and this activity did that across the board. And Steve was great. He had the perfect balance of humor and information. I definitely got the feeling that he knew exactly what he was doing, but the humor was nice because it kept everything super lighthearted, and I was nervous. I'm jumping out of a helicopter, something I've never done. Nobody I know has ever jumped out of a helicopter, so yes, the overall experience was a positive one. Not only did he explain in our safety briefing what was going on, he went into detail over how before we could even jump, there's a 5-point system. And I was thinking to myself, 5-point system, what does that mean? Before we even jump, he makes sure that he has the green light from the captain, from the rescue swimmer below us, the pilot itself, him. There's so many things on the back end that I didn't know happened. For example, just before we jump, the rescue swimmer actually takes a look under the water just to make sure there's nothing under the water right where our jump is going to be, such as a turtle or something that we could potentially land on. Now, it sounds a little bit over the top and probably unexpected, but these are things that I didn't even think about were part of the helicopter jump, and it was really, really nice getting that extra information from Steve, because when you're doing something that is out of your comfort zone, like jumping out of a helicopter, more information is better. And I absolutely felt completely safe, and I liked knowing what was going on because I think that a lot of the anxiety from something like this comes from not knowing what's going on, and Steve definitely did the opposite of that. He told us everything that was going on, start to finish, everything that we had to expect, and I really appreciate that. And kind of going off of that, for example, we were fitted into wetsuits. Now, he could have just rented us our wetsuits and been about our day, but he didn't. Instead, he explained in our safety briefing the purpose of the wetsuits. So the wetsuits are not for temperature. It's completely warm to swim here in Hawaii, but the wetsuits were instead for buoyancy and for grip. So for buoyancy, when you jump out of the helicopter and you have a wetsuit on, you'll come back up to the surface quite a bit faster than if you just jump without a wetsuit. And also it's for grip. So when you're getting out of the helicopter, he's able to grip your shoulder as you step off the helicopter to make sure you clear it properly. All of these are details that I didn't even think about, but it speaks to how detail-oriented this company is and how they've thought of everything. They not only rented us wetsuits, but they went into detail of why we're even using them. I absolutely love this. And I was like, did I need to know all those details? Probably not. But do I feel 10 times safer knowing the reason I'm wearing the wetsuits, knowing their 5-point safety system whenever we're about to do a helicopter jump? Absolutely. Huge fan, would recommend. I did this helicopter jump solo. I didn't have any of my friends with me. I went completely on my own. So a lot of the footage that you see is actually the footage that came from the TRIDENT Adventures GoPro, and there is some footage that I filmed as well, but for the most part, I didn't have a second person to help me film, so that's why a lot of this that I'm talking about, I'm doing after. And to be honest, learning about how their operation works reminded me often a lot of being a concierge. Like for example, as a concierge, if you're planning a 13-day itinerary over 4 islands and you're trying to make it as logistically sound for your guests so they know what's going on and you can make it completely seamless. There's a lot going on behind the scenes that the guest isn't necessarily aware of, but a skilled concierge can make it effortless. Just like in this helicopter jump, there was a lot going on behind the scenes and they shared a little bit of what was going on with us, and I can definitely tell that their operation was safe, seamless, and this is a company that I would recommend. So after you finish the safety briefing, you'll put all your stuff in your bag and then they'll take your stuff over to the boat. So this is kind of where you split off. So if you're only doing the helicopter jump and dive, but somebody else in your group is doing the scuba dive or maybe the snorkel, this is the part where you would separate, and those people who are only doing the snorkel or scuba dive would get in the shuttle van to be taken over to the harbor. Now I was doing the helicopter jump, so from the dive shop, I got in a different shuttle van to take me to the heliport at the airport. So part 2, the helicopter jump. We're getting off the shuttle, wetsuits are on, and you're pulling up to Magnum Helicopters. All right guys, so we are outside of Magnum Helicopters and we are here at the heliport, and it's super nice out here. I'll show you guys a quick ocean view right over there. So far the format has been, we checked in at the Trident location over at Aloha Tower Marketplace, and it's behind the old spaghetti factory. We checked in at about 10 o'clock in the morning, had a safety briefing, and then they took a shuttle from there all the way to here. Wasn't that far of a drive, about 30 minutes. If you guys came from Waikiki to the airport, it's the same distance. We're essentially at the airport, but we're on the heliport side of Honolulu Airport, and it's kind of settling in. We are about to jump out of a perfectly working helicopter. So far, first impressions, everything, I was super high anxiety because again, we're jumping out of a perfectly working helicopter, but like they do a great job. So the owner, Steve, he's the main person who's running everything, and they had a deck that went through all the safety briefings, how everything works. I felt totally at ease. I went from super high anxiety to super excited about it. So yeah, we're about to be jumping soon. We did a quick little little green screen video with the Magnum PI Ferrari. I'll throw in a clip here. But yeah, so we are, it's good. So yeah, went from super high anxiety of like, oh, we're jumping out of a perfectly moving helicopter to super excited, and I'm really excited, and I'm gonna take you guys with us. So we're gonna head back into base camp and go from there. We were able to take some fun photos, and then Steve took us over to the helicopter that was doors off to show us the proper way to jump out of the helicopter. We did a little bit of a practice, and then we headed back inside and waited for our time to fly. Now, this is another thing. There are GoPros from literally every angle. This was super cool because when you're out jumping out of a helicopter, you're not really thinking of what to film, what angles. You really want to focus on the actual experience itself. And Steve also had a GoPro, and he was recording everything. And then it was time. We just finished our safety briefing and we practiced jumping out of the helicopter, and now we're heading back inside for a short break, and then we are heading back to the helicopter to fly over to Waikiki. We boarded our doors off, that's right, doors off helicopter and headed back to Waikiki. Now, this part is actually really cool. We're flying with this doors off helicopter and Steve looks completely at ease, like he's done this a million times, which is true. He probably has done it a million times. And what they say about energy is true. It inspires a lot of courage to see somebody leading the way who's done this a million times. And I was nervous. Like, we're about to jump out of a helicopter. So seeing his energy and how at ease and how calm he was definitely helped calm some of my nerves. And then there we were, hovering above the boat. I don't think I got nervous. Oh, I'm actually getting chills right now. If you guys can see, I'm actually getting a little bit of chills just thinking about it. So we're up there, we're hovering above this boat. I see the rescue swimmer in the water. There's two other people on the heli with me. One person goes, and it wasn't until I literally saw this first person just jump out of the helicopter that I realized, oh my God, I'm jumping out of a helicopter. Oh my goodness, I'm jumping out of a helicopter today. And then it was my turn. I took a quick look. I saw Steve execute his 5-point system, getting a green light from the captain. Everything looked good to go. And then it was my turn. Phenomenal. Hands down across the board, the coolest thing I have ever done. And I remember back in the beginning of the video when I talked to you about the buoyancy that we learned about, how when you wear a wetsuit, you have better buoyancy. So when you jump in the water, you float up a lot faster. 100% right. By the time I floated back up to the surface after the jump, the rescue swimmer was already right beside me and he had a buoyancy belt ready for me. And then from there, the rescue swimmer took me over to the boat. 10 out of 10. But wait, there's more. Just when you think your adrenaline could not maximize any farther. And that leads me into part 3, the scuba dive. Now, scuba diving is always something in general that's maybe a little bit nervous. You're going underwater and you don't breathe water. The concept has always made me nervous, but it's something I really enjoy. I love being underwater. I love seeing the marine life, but yes, I do get nervous every time I go scuba diving. So now our gear is fitted and we're ready to get into the water to go scuba diving. The other two people who were on the heli jump with me also were scuba diving and they have done way more scuba dives than I have. Me on the other hand, I've done a handful of dives, but not as much as them. So I'm already nervous. And one of our other dive masters, Laurel, I think you could have sensed the fear on me. Probably could have smelled the fear. I was so nervous. And for me, I find a lot of times the scuba gear can kind of make me a little claustrophobic. It's very heavy. So I've got my gear on, I've got the tank on, I've got the goggles on, I'm kind of walking to the back of the boat, I get in the water and I can just feel the weight of the gear be less weight. So there I was underwater, going slowly, following the line, and I'm not really sure what happened. I just all of a sudden got really anxious. I could feel my chest tightening. I started hyperventilating underwater. I was super, super nervous. And I'm looking at the other divers and they have bubbles coming out of their regulator, but minimal compared to mine, which was like a cloud of bubbles because of how quickly I was breathing. Then I started to panic, thinking I'm gonna run out of air. Now, keep in mind, I'm only about 10 feet from the surface and I had just put the tank on, and obviously I would not run out of air in the 3-minute span that I had been underwater. But once you're down the rabbit hole of panic, nervousness, anxiousness, it's kind of hard to come out of it. I'm trying my best to regulate myself, but I do firmly believe that you should know your own limits. And I had hit mine. I knew that once I went down this rabbit hole of panic, fear, and anxiety, the best thing to do for myself was to pause, take a moment and collect myself before going any further. So that's what I did. I went back up to the surface, I got back on the boat, I took off all my gear and I just sat there for a minute. And one of the other crew members asked if I was going back in the water. I said I wasn't, I was just gonna snorkel at the surface. I don't think it would have been fun for me if I pushed myself through it because how stressed I already was. I also don't think it would have been safe for me to do so. If I'm already getting this nervous 10 feet under the surface, it would have probably just gotten worse. So I think I made the right decision. I had all my gear off, I went for a quick swim in the water and I could automatically already feel myself feeling calmer. I was catching my breath, I felt at ease again, and all the panic and anxiety was gone. Now, a few minutes later, one of the dive masters, Laurel, came back and he had yelled out to me, he said, "Hey, are you coming back in? Do you want to try a second time?" And I was telling him I was a bit nervous. And then he had suggested, what if we had just, tried a second time and just stay at the surface? And I was like, okay, that seems reasonable. Yeah, sure. And to be fair, I did want to go back in, but I'm gonna be transparent with you guys. I was scared. I was scared out of my mind to go back in the water again. But this dive master, he made it really easy. He said we didn't have to go all the way down to the sandy surface. He said that we could even stay at the surface as long as I needed and just think of it as power snorkeling. And I was like, all right, power snorkeling. All right, that's cool. Like, I'm at the surface. I mean, seems reasonable. I'm getting used to this gear. All right. I'm in, let's do it. So I put on my gear, I get back in the water, and it was great. Like, I was comfortable. We stayed at the surface probably a few minutes longer than most people would, but getting comfortable having all that gear on for somebody who is not a frequent scuba diver, that extra few minutes is all I really needed. He had told me that whenever I was ready to go deeper into the water, we could, or again, we could totally stay at the surface. And I think that was all I really needed. I think I just needed a few more minutes at the surface to kind of ease into it, and it was fine. Like, we didn't go all the way down to the sandy surface right away, which I really appreciated because I was super nervous. And again, trying to be transparent with you guys because I do think it's important to have all the information, and this is my experience and I can only speak to my experience. Now, I'm still a little nervous, so I'm holding the regulator with both hands, and looking back, I guess it looked kind of silly, but in my head I was like, oh no, what if the regulator falls out? And then thinking about it, I was like, well, there's, you know, my teeth are holding the regulator in place, but what happens if my teeth fall out? Like, once you're down that rabbit hole again of panic and anxiety, it takes a minute to get back. But once I started swimming around, I had the regulator in, I slowly moved my hands away from the regulator, realizing that the gear was indeed proper. I mean, just listening to the story, like, your teeth are gonna fall out and the regulator is gonna fall out, like, that sounds kind of ridiculous. But again, being transparent, I was really scared. I was super nervous, and after a few minutes, like, a lot of that fear went away and I was fine. And I'm so glad that I did, because guys, it was cool. Like, there were fish, there were turtles, there was like 4 or 5 turtles. We're out there swimming and doing the things, and we caught up with the rest of the group. Everybody was waving. Like, it was so much fun. I am so glad that I went in the water the second time. Now, the dive master didn't know this at the time, but I will tell you guys this, which maybe the dive master will see this at this point, but when I was a kid and I was 8 years old, I actually drowned. So I am very anxious about being underwater in general as a grown adult right now. So having a crew member who was encouraging to get me back in the water but wasn't pushy about it, for somebody who was genuinely afraid, like it's scary. And I'm really grateful that that person went the extra mile to encourage me to try again. And just thinking about it, like that was such a cool experience, and I'm so grateful that I actually got the chance to do it instead of stopping because I was scared and just kind of giving up. Like, having a little bit of encouragement in the right way was so helpful, and I am so appreciative of this. Shout out to Laurel. Thank you so much. Shout out to the entire TRIDENT Adventures crew. Like, you guys are amazing. If you are in the least bit of anxiety and panic, I can say across the board, this crew is 10 out of 10 the best. I can genuinely say I felt safe, I felt at ease, and I definitely felt that I was in the right hands, that everyone knew what they were doing and was experienced. And for somebody like myself who is very anxious to scuba dive in general, like, I'm glad that I went with this company. As for the next part, options. Now, first off, do you have to jump out of the helicopter to go scuba diving? And the short answer is no. So if there's somebody in your group who perhaps wants to do the heli jump and another one does not, you can still go together. You would check in at the same dive shop together, do the safety briefing together, and then you would separate when you're done with the safety briefing. So the person who's doing the heli jump would go onto the heliport, and the person who is not would head straight to the harbor to get on the boat, and that's where you'd meet up again back at the boat. Also, do you have to scuba dive? The answer is no. You can also snorkel. So if you have someone in the group who just wants to snorkel, be an observer, you have another person who wants to do the heli jump and the scuba dive, you can both still go together. You'll just split off at the time when the person who's doing the heli jump is heading to the heliport. This is a great option if you're traveling with different people who want to do different things but still want to go along together. So for example, if you want to just snorkel and hang out, but the second person in your group wants to do the heli jump and scuba, you can both still do it together, which is pretty cool. Now, of course, you do have to make that decision when you book, but this is a great option for those who are traveling together. Next, what to pack. If you've been following this channel for a while, you know that I almost always bring my dry bag with me. I actually went to go grab it to show you guys. So this is my 25-liter dry bag, and if you've been watching any of my snorkel videos, you know that I bring this bag on most of my boat trips. It is a regular backpack that is a dry bag, so I put all my stuff in here. This keeps all my gear safe, keeps my towels dry, keeps everything I need. There's a zipper pocket here, and there's also some space on the inside as well. I'm about 5'8", and the 25-liter dry bag is the perfect size for me. They also make a 35-liter. I'll leave a link in the description box below, but this is what it looks like. I love bringing these. It has clips if you want to put on your water bottle. Super comfortable, flexible, and again, this is a 25 liter. This is the perfect size for me whenever I go snorkeling, but I also have a 35 liter as well. I would definitely recommend buying a dry bag if you don't already have one. They fold flat in your suitcase and you can bring them on pretty much any boat trip. Now, I know some people just carry a regular backpack, but if you just carry a regular backpack or bag, your stuff will most likely get wet. People are going on and off the boat, scuba diving, snorkeling. Maybe everybody's not super careful where your stuff is. So if you have a dry bag, that's completely not even a worry. You can leave your stuff anywhere on the boat and not have to worry about your stuff getting wet. In addition to my dry bag, I also packed a few things. I packed a towel, dry clothes for after, sunscreen, lotion for my face, because after you finish scuba diving, your face is going to be really, really dry from being in the salt water. So I was able to rinse my face off with fresh water and then put on some calming lotion afterwards. A hat, and of course, I always bring gear. So in my case, I brought my GoPro, extra batteries, the mic, and a few other accessories. And now, lastly for the review. Overall, absolutely fantastic experience. From the heli jump to the scuba dive, I had probably the most adrenaline that was going through my system for the entire day. From start to finish, I felt safe, I felt like in the know. Overall, would recommend. I'll leave links in the description box below if you would like to book this activity. And if this is something that you wanted to do or have done before, definitely leave a comment down below. I would love to hear your story.